So I am Aruna. I have been into software development field from last 11 years, and today I will be giving a webinar on testing in Agile projects. So first, let's understand what Agile is all about. So if we go on Google and we find search about what Agile methodology is, we will get many abstract and esoteric explanations. So in simple language, we can simply say that, okay, it is being able to move quickly and easily. So when we go on Google, it becomes very, we don't get that clear idea on what it is. So I'm explaining it in a very simple way. So it is a methodology which promotes continuous integration of development and testing through the life cycle of the project. So what happens here is, in Agile methodology, we go through some sprints and scrums, and then we create some builds. We continuously integrate it. Developers continuously integrate it, and then after integration, the testing team gets it for testing. So here, both testing and development teams go hand in hand. They have their activities are very concurrent. So now let's go ahead and see the features of Agile development. So first of all, it is methodology. What methodology means is systems of I love you, Chila. So what methodology is, it's a system of methods in a particular way. So we follow a particular way, a particular method to go ahead and execute our development project management. So we will see these methodologies in this webinar. And the second feature is iterative. So basically, Agile is iterative. We are calling it as Agile. Here in Agile, we keep on we create a plan, we make the changes regularly, we execute the plans. So, say for example, we are into a development process, and then in between we got some changes from the customer or from our project management team. In that case, since we are Agile, we revisit the plan. We go and check where we need to make the changes, and then accordingly we move ahead. However, when we are using some non-agile methodologies, say for example, it is waterfall model. And based on those plans, the development team makes their DLLs, makes their designing patterns, and the testing team starts preparing their test documents. Say, for example, test plans, test scenarios, requirement traceability matrix and all. So here what happens that it is going in a sequential way. We do not go back and make the changes in the plan. So here in waterfall model, what happens? We are following a particular plan. However, in iterative, we go again back and make the changes if we require. So this is what iterative is all about. Here we go through the sprints. We will talk about sprints going ahead. Now the third and the main feature is streamlined. Project. Sorry. Okay, so we were talking about streamlining. So in Agile, the process is very streamlined. We have small and quick meetings. We don't go into long documentations of the features, nothing like that. We take small parts of a feature and then we go through small quick meetings. We discuss about those small short features and then we simply move into the development. Here the movement is very fast, but yes, it is very streamlined. The fourth point is time boxing. So yes, uh, instead of making the timelines based on the feature, we select the features based on the timelines. So what happens here? We plan the project based on the time already decided. So these the timeline is already decided by the product manager. So what they do is they have their own backlogs wherein the features which are to be developed are documented. Now, in agile methodology, the releases are planned in a very short time. So what happens here? The release may happen in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it is not necessary that the whole bunch of feature would be developed in 2-3 weeks. So if the feature is not complete, in that case, what happens? We release the part which is already done, which is already completed, and the remaining part is moved with the other feature which will be going in the next iteration. So here, the time boxing is very important, and the features are decided based on the time. The fifth point is collaborative. So in agile development, yes, we have a very collaborative environment. Both development and testing team talk to each other. They discuss the functionalities if they have any issues. Many times the test team shares their test scenarios and test cases with the development team so that right at the time of development, they create the features in such a way that further we do not get any blocker or critical issues. So collaboration is one of the very important part in agile development. So one of the um, what I should say, it should be one of the case studies I would say that which I have seen in one of my organizations was there was initially the people were using agile. They were saying they are using agile methodology, but actually it was not being used in that effective way. So the testing team, very new to agile development, were unaware of simple facts of collaboration. So what happened? They found a blocker issue, and they simply raised it in their bug tracking tool. And then they simply stopped testing because it was a blocker issue. Now, since I was working there as lead, I saw the issue, and then I got to know that okay, the testing has been stopped because of this issue. Since we are agile, we are using agile methodology. What we are supposed to do is, in this case, what we did is we went to the development team lead and the particular developer who was assigned that defect, and then we told them that okay, this is the issue, this is what we are facing, and because of this the testing is blocked. Now if my testing is blocked, it results into delays. So what we did is we asked them to quickly resolve that issue. Sometimes what happens, the blocker issue may be because of some configuration problem. The development team has not done some the proper configuration in the configuration file. So in this case, it was a small minor change which they need to do. They did that change. They committed it in the in the test environment, and then again we started testing, and the formalities of marking the defect as resolved and mentioning the impact areas and all that was happening side by side. But here, since we were agile, we collaborated, we got the work done from the developers, and then we simply started testing at the same time. So here we can see the difference. Had it been waterfall model or non-agile development methodology, we would have been waiting for their work to be done, and till then the testing team had no work to be done on that particular release. So in this way, collaboration really helps. Um, Now we will move on to the difference between agile methodology and non-agile methodology. So even this is a very important point to understand how agile actually differs and is better. I hope the screen is visible to everyone. Please let me know if it is not. Okay, so we'll move ahead. So on the screen, I have the difference. There is one. Okay, great, Sneha. So we'll move ahead. Um, so agile methodology, as I have already mentioned, it supports iterative and incremental approach towards the product development. So iterative in the case where we have different features and we are simply going through iterations. It is incremental. We are not stopping at a particular point. We are collaborating, and it is incremental. As I told you that if there is some feature which is half developed, it is not stopping me from releasing that particular feature. Yes, I will release it half done, and then the half part will move ahead in the other feature. So you see, it is incremental. It is not stopping. Okay, and in other methodologies, it is a sequential point from A to B, wherein A is the starting point and B is the project ending. So in between, if I am stuck, I am stuck. It results into delays of the release. Now in Agile, a particular feature is broken down in small pieces, and the small pieces would be decided based on the timeline which has already been decided. So what happens when we are grouping a particular feature in small chunks? These small chunks should make a sense. It should not happen that okay, I have made a a part of a feature, but that is not making any sense. Doing the release of that particular feature. So what we do is we break it into small chunks. This is normally done by the product manager, and yes, the development team lead or the development team and the testing team are also part of that discussion. Normally, they all have a meeting and therein they decide. However, in the other methodology, we focus on the feature to be developed, and depending on that feature, we uh, decide the timeline. So, for example, if a feature is, say, for example, a payment feature is a huge model. So here, what happens if I am working on a payment feature? I may take 2 or 3 months to get it done, and in these 2 3 months, we will not have a single release because everyone is working on that payment feature. So what happens in Agile methodology? We break it into different chunks. So yes, one of them would be okay. We are only taking the payments. We are not giving the receipts, or some kind of uh, small chunks which makes sense, which we can go ahead and release. Now the third point is customer can look at the product and provide acceptance or changes in the product which saves time and resources. How does it save time and resources? So the point is what the development team is doing. They are creating the features, and at the same time we are having meeting with the customer who has asked for that particular feature, and the customer can see the changes which the features which is developed, and if it looks fine and the customer is happy with that build or with that feature, they provide the acceptance. So now the development team knows that okay, this is what is developed, and now we can go ahead further. However, if say for example there have been some requirement gaps, or the customer has decided okay, we don't want the flow in this way, we want it in some other way, they can give the modifications or changes to the product management team, and what happens, the project management team can then make the plans, and then yes, we can revisit the plan. So again we revisit it and start working in that direction. So what happens here, my time is saved because I have not created the whole bunch of feature. The customer has already provided me what the changes are required. And resources, yes, why? Because say for example there were 3 resources working on a particular feature and they have moved ahead, and after that I get some changes. Obviously they will have to move back. The work they have done is all waste. So yes, it saves time and resources. However, what happens in other methodology, the customer gets the product by the end of the feature. So if they think that their requirement was not captured in a particular in the way they wanted, or they want any modifications which is a must for their business, obviously they will tell it in the end, which will result into loss of resources and time, because then we will have to go back again to the documentation phase. We will have to, because it is non agile methodology where um, we concentrate on the documentation. Again, documentation will happen, and again the development team will start developing that feature. So it is feature wise. So again, say for example, they have used 3 months, again 3 months would be used. And we don't know, it may be more depending on the modification. So in this way, now agile methodology helps saving us time and resources. And now the fourth point is documentation. Yes, we already discussed it in the third point. Documentation has less priority over the software development in agile methodology. So what happens here? We have small test scenarios or checklists in agile methodology. We create a checklist, and then depending on that checklist, the software development begins, starts. And the testing team, depending on the checklist, creates their documents, which may be again checklist of scenarios which they want to test. However, in other methodology, we will have to create a foolproof blueprint of the requirement and get the sign-offs, and then the project is created, then the project starts. So here again, we are saving time. The fifth point is testers and developers work together. Yes, we discussed it in the last presentation. So there we talked about collaboration. So testers and developers work together, collaborate with each other. Someone has not placed their system on mute. So could you please place it on mute, because it is causing disturbances.
Yeah, carry on. I've put it on mute.
Yeah, thank you. So we were talking about the fifth point, collaboration, testers and developers working together. However, in non-agile methodology, what happens? The testers and the developers are working separately. Even the management wants them to work separately, because sometimes they feel that the testers' viewpoints or developers' viewpoints may affect each other, and the application may get errors or bugs because of this. So here the testers and developers sit in separate places, they work separately. So here again the agile methodology helps. Now the last point is both development and testing team are involved in requirement analysis and design. So what happens? Testing and development team sit together with the product management team, or a particular product manager who is handling that feature, and they plan. This planning is done normally into sprint meetings. There they take one feature, they divide it into different chunks. They discuss with the development and testing team that okay, we want the next release to be done in 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes in 1 week also. So in such case, how do we divide this particular feature in different chunks so that I release it in this much time? So here everyone sits together, they plan, backlog is created, and accordingly the development and testing starts. So the planning again is having development and testing team involved. However, in non-agile methodology, in requirement analysis, sometimes testing team lead or QA manager is involved, but developers are not involved at all. I'm not sure because I'm not sure about QA team also, because in some organizations I have seen that okay, the manager is also sitting, the QA manager or QA lead is also sitting for the requirement analysis, because they are supposed to be SMEs but the developers are not involved. So what happens after the requirement is not finalized, the requirement is documented, it reaches the developers, and now if they have any doubts or any changes or some feedbacks, they will again have to come back to the requirement team, and then again the whole cycle begins. So it delays the coding part, which in turn delays the testing part, because till the coding is not done, testing will not be started. So again, this actually hampers my uh, timeline. So these are the main differences in agile methodology and non-agile methodology. Now let's move to the this we till now we discussed about agile methodology in the whole development. Now what we will do is we will move ahead to agile testing concepts. So what agile testing concepts is all about, what are its values, we will discuss now. So agile testing is the practice of testing sorry, any software by following the agile principles. So we just discussed about agile principles, wherein we revisit the plan. If changes are required, we make the changes. In the same way, agile testing happens. Here also, the testing team works in that fashion only. So, what are the agile testing values? Let's go ahead and discuss about them. So, the first one is continuous testing. The testing team continuously tests the features. They don't depend on testing phases. So whenever we get a build from the development team, whenever we get a build from the testing team, we start testing on that particular build. Okay, so with the continuous deployment, we do continuous testing. Now comes the feedback on quality. So one of the examples which I gave you, as soon as a blocker or critical defect is found, we don't wait for the development team to see and resolve the bugs. We personally interact with the development team and get the code corrected. And then again, we move ahead with the testing. So we are not actually raising the defect on the quality, we are actually giving our feedback on the quality, that okay, this is the issue with the quality. This should we would expect this to be in some other way, in such a way, and then we move ahead. So here again, we are giving our feedback. Now comes the fourth point, which is everyone tests. So in Agile, yes, the responsibility of testing is with the QAs. However, it is not only the QA people who are testing. Sometimes it is business analysts and developers who are also testing. So how developers test? What they do is, since we follow a continuous deployment thing in Agile, whenever they create a build, they do some unit testing on their build. Okay, so what happens? Major blocker issues, rather major problems in the code which results into the blocker issues are corrected in the first place. Okay, and even the business analysts or the product managers, even though these guys go and test the feature when it is being tested by the testing team. So if they want to raise any defect, yes, they are welcome. They raise the defect in the defect management tool. Now the fourth point is implements checklists. So we do not go into detailed documentation when we are following Agile. So even in testing, we have so many documents to be maintained if we are not Agile. We create test plans, test strategy, test scenarios, test cases, test data, okay? And we maintain them, we maintain regression test suits, everything. We are maintaining so many documents. We are maintaining feature documents as well. Sometimes we are supposed to mention the um, details about what the bugs we have got, how, what kind of defects we have got. So if these many documentations we need to maintain in QA. But since we are following Agile, what we are doing is we do not go for long and descriptive test documents. Here again we are using checklists which are reusable. So yes, I have created a checklist and then I can reuse that checklist again when my next feature is going ahead. So say for example, I have created a checklist for a particular feature. Say for example, a login feature. For that, I have created, I have made my development, and now I have tested it. I have my checklist to check all the points in the login. And now in the next release, I am working, I have got the home page, and on the home page, I have done my testing. But for navigating to the home page, I will have to log in. Since I have already my checklist created in my last release for login, I will simply use that checklist and go ahead with the testing of the home page. So here my checklist created for login is reusable. Okay, so in this way we are implementing reusable checklists in Agile. Testing while implementation is the last point in testing values. So here, what happens? The testing team starts testing right at the time of implementation. So the development team is implementing a particular feature and they are giving that build to the testing team for testing. So since it is in the implementation phase itself, the testing team can give their feedback if they get any issues or if they get any usability problems. They can immediately go ahead and tell the implementers to implement it. The implementers may be the product management team or the development team. Okay, so this, what happens, this makes the process fast. We are not stuck in between. So here again, testing while implementation is of very much importance. Again, as we have seen in the third point, everyone tests. So again, the business analyst may get some changes while the implementation is in progress and they are testing. So they can ask the development team, okay, make such so and so changes. We will make the changes in our checklist. The testing team is told they can make the changes in their checklist, because making changes in checklist does not require much time. Okay, so this way testing while implementation helps. Now we will go ahead. Advantages of agile testing. So the first one is saves time and money. Obviously, yes, since we are testing with while implementation is in progress, we save time, and since we are saving time, we are saving our resources, we are saving money as well. Had it been the case wherein I am getting the changes in the end, I will have to invest more money. Right? So here I am saving my time and money. Second point is concentrates on testing activities rather than documentation. So now what happens in non-agile testing? There we create our test cases, test scenarios, and so many documents. We are concentrating mainly on the documentation because based on that document only I am going to execute my testing, my test cases. However, here since we have checklist, we don't have to go much deep into documentation. We don't have to waste our time in documenting. Rather, we concentrate on testing activity. We are doing continuous testing. While testing, we come across different scenarios. So we are adding that scenarios as a checklist in our document if required, and we are executing those those scenarios. So here again, we are mainly concentrating on the testing activity rather than on the documentation. Third point is feedback from the customer while implementing the feature. So yes, since the customer is looking into the application, into the feature, as soon as it is developed, we get the feedback from customer as well. So they may come with a small change, or they may come with some bigger changes. So even if it is bigger change, it is quite easy to implement right in the beginning. So it also helps the customer. And one more thing which I have not mentioned here is, since we have got go ahead from the customer in the initial phases only, if the customer comes up with some changes related to this particular feature, and by the end of the feature or in the later stages, we can obviously ask the customer that, okay, since you had given the go ahead, we went ahead to this point, and this now the changes will take time. We can buy time from the customer, and they will not feel bad that okay, this has resulted into delay, because they were the one who gave go ahead initially. Okay, so the development team is on safer side. The customer is also happy with the changes. Okay, so feedback from customer while implementing the feature. Now, daily meetings to address the issues and resolve. Okay, so what happens in agile testing? We go through quick meetings. So these quick meetings, normally we have uh, scrum meetings daily, wherein the team members gather, they discuss on the feature they are working on, and if they are facing any issue, the responsible person will take care and resolve that issue. So what happens, since we are having daily meetings? Yes, someone has. Okay, so money is so the question is, how do we save money while following agile methodology compared with other methodologies? So what happens here, since we have got the changes initially, if there are any changes, we are making the changes initially itself, not at the end. So the time involved to make the changes in the end will be more than if I am getting in the initial phase only. So my money is obviously saved on the resources, and obviously if the customer is not happy, we are losing our customer. So that is a different point. But from the development point, yes, we are saving time, we are saving resources. The resources who have been paid for 3 months will again work for another 3 months and will be paid for the same feature, right? So money is obviously a point which is saved here in Agile. Um, Also, if the changes are coming in between and the customer is telling me about the changes in the requirement, obviously if the changes are big, we are, I mean the development team, the product manager or the higher management is going to tell them that okay, we are not delaying it because of our mistake, but yes, because changes have come in between. Okay, it makes the customer happy, it saves our time and money. So in any doubts in that, I can I can answer your issues if you have any. Now, the fourth point is faster software product delivery. So since we are using agile testing and development usage, so what happens here? The the changes are initially told, or if we are good to go ahead, we go ahead, which results into faster product delivery. The product is developed in the way the customer wants, and it goes right at the decided time. So faster software product delivery can be achieved if we are properly using agile testing. Now we'll look at agile testing quadrants. So the screen you are looking into is agile testing quadrants, wherein we have two quarters. Quarter one is unit testing, unit tests, component tests, okay, which is normally automated. Okay, so the question from Ajit, what is the exact time for a particular sprint, as some define it is for some weeks, but some say something different. So just want to know whether any defined time for it. So Ajit, there is no exact time for a particular sprint. The sprint timeline is decided at the time of sprint meeting, which is held with the development team, testing team, and the product manager. As I told you, the timeline is already decided by the product manager that okay, yes, we want the next timeline to be in 2 or 3 weeks. It may be 4 weeks. It may be 1 week. So depending on that timeline, our feature is divided into chunks. So the the sprint timeline is they don't have exact time for a particular sprint. It is decided in the meetings. I hope it is clear now. Great. Now we'll go ahead to Agile Testing Quadrants. In the quadrants, we have 4 quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Q1 is unit tests, component tests, which is normally, or since we are following Agile, the first thing we do is we automate it. The component testing and unit testing is automated. In the second quarter, the functional testing, examples, story tests, prototypes, simulations, these are done. Again, these are, some of them are automated. Say for example, functional tests, these are automated. Simulations may be automated. Prototypes, yes, prototypes. Story tests. Story is story. What actually story is, we divide a particular feature into chunks. So now these particular chunks are called user stories, right? So we they will have user stories incorporated in that build, right? So those story testing is done. Prototypes are created by the designers or sometimes developers for their, in which they incorporate their designs. So some of them is automated and some of them is manual tasks. The customer, wherein we show the feature to the customer, right? And the fourth is performance and load testing, security testing. Okay, so what happens here? All the testing is done, exploratory testing done, usability testing done, everything is done. We have got the go ahead. After user acceptance testing, what we do is, if our product needs performance testing or load testing, we do it in the fourth quarter. So this and the security testing can be done in the fourth quarter if our application requires it. So here we use tools. So say for example, for performance and testing, performance and load testing, we may use JMeter, we may use Load Runner. Okay, and for security testing, we have again different testing tools. We have some open source also. So here, in this way, the agile testing moves on. Now here Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 are numbered, but it is not necessary that this goes on in this particular fashion also. Sometimes what happens, in one of my organizations I have seen, the after the Q1 was done, directly we started testing load on the feature, because that was of utmost importance. It was an e-commerce website. So the first thing we did in that particular iteration, that we started with load testing. So yes, we have marked it as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. This is it is not necessary that you go through these things, these quadrants in this fashion. Okay. So what happens here, that generally if we follow this quadrant, the testing actually is starting from the Q2 phase. The testers are starting work on this, on that particular feature in the second quadrant. In the first quadrant, the development team automate the testing, the unit testing part and the component testing part. So when they deploy a feature, there only their automation script runs. Sneha, for security testing, you can use ground speed, okay, which is an add-on from Mozilla. Okay, so you will have to explore how it works, right? And then for SQL penetration testing also, you will get many open source on Mozilla, right? So for security testing, you can use those tools. Ground speed, it is ground speed, so I will write it here. It's an add-on in Mozilla. Okay. Okay, so shall we move ahead, Sneha? Great. So let's move ahead. Yes, so I was talking about Q1, which is automated by the development team. We move ahead. It is the test. If the test passes, we get the feature in the testing server, or if it fails, the development team make the changes and again they deploy it. So it is a continuous deployment process. In a day, we can have multiple deployments. So the first quadrant is done. We move to the next quadrant, which is Q2, wherein the testing team now starts testing the feature, and so on and so forth. So even in Q3, the testing team plus the business analysts plus the customer, everyone is testing. Okay, which is normally manual, because if the customer is testing, they are not going to have automated, some automated feature, and the exploratory testing itself says that it cannot be automated. We are exploring, right? So we don't know what we have not already thought of the scenarios which we will be executing, and in that particular feature we are exploring, right? Obviously these will not be automated. Ajit, yes, you have got a good question. So when we are using Agile, one of the main features is automation. Okay, normally, or I should say mostly, with Agile, automation comes into play. So if say for example you are into the organization is only working is only into manual testing, and if they are planning to go Agile, they should, I should say they must get automation team on board, right? Because in Agile we are moving fast. So say for example you have a regression test suite of 200 test cases, and if you are executing these 200 test cases before the deployment on the production, it will take 2 days, right? So we are compromising the speed here. However, the main reason for adopting Agile is to make the delivery fast. So yes, initially all these you will have to do manually. If you still want to go Agile, you will have to do everything manually. You will have to exclude the automation thing. But this is not what is actually supposed. I mean, the organization should or must get on board the automated team, should get the things automated. So sometimes, say for example, initially you don't have automation, the performance testing or load testing, you cannot do it manually. If you are doing it manually, you will need so many systems. You will not have thousands of systems in your office, right? So in that case, again, the development team is asked to create a feature, rather a different, it will again become one of the user stories for the development team to create some feature for load testing, right? So in this way it can be handled. Everything if you are doing manually, and if something is for something you must have automation, say for example performance and load, this again becomes a user story. Okay, and the development team now works on that. It creates a feature for testing the load. Okay, so I hope this answers your question. Great. So we'll move ahead. So Ajit, your question is again answered here. Agile testing best practices. So as I said, best practices would include automation, obviously, because the developers. So the first point is automation of unit tests. So we automate unit tests before sending it to the testing team. So if they are done with the automation of the unit testing, it is done fast. It is easily deployed on the server. Okay, this is the automation of unit testing, uh, considered as one of the best practices. Skipping unit test is not an option when we are into agile testing. Okay? Now the second point is follow the test-driven development. So yes, as we discussed initially itself, that sometimes the testing team also provides the sorry test cases to the development team so that they know how the system should work. If they have any doubt or if they don't agree with what has been provided by the testing team, they can obviously go ahead and discuss with the testing team. If still both of them are not, uh, don't agree with each other, they can still go ahead and talk to the product management team. Okay, so this way test-driven development helps rather than getting the build after the development is done and then testing and then coming up with the issues wherein we have lost our time. We have already worked so hard on the development. We are simply getting the test cases initially, and development team is working on that test cases. Um, Sometimes what happens, the development team, based on the test cases, create their own checklist and then they maintain it. Okay, we have done this thing, we have created this feature, yes, it is working in this way. So even they put a tick mark that okay, the feature is working in this way. So now the third point, automating the regression test cases. Yes. So what happens? We are working in chunks and bits for a particular feature. So take the example we took earlier. Login page is already developed. We are working on the home page. We are reusing the checklist of login page. Okay. We may have regression test cases for login page. Now, if there are 100 of test cases and we are executing all the 100 test cases for login page, it will take time. So rather what I would do is I will automate those 100 test cases and then I will execute it at any time, the time I prefer. So it may be in the midnight. Okay. So automating the regression test cases helps in delivering fast. Hmm? And the fourth point is exploratory testing. Yes. So since we are having checklists, we do exploratory testing and then we add the test cases if required. If some test case comes into my mind, if some scenario comes into my mind while I am testing, I can obviously add it into the document, but I am mainly concentrating on my testing part. So it is exploratory testing. Now comes continuous integration. So what is continuous integration? as written here, it is a software development process wherein each development team member integrates his or her code frequently, usually on daily basis, resulting into multiple integrations per day. Sorry. So here the development team is working on a particular user story, and these user stories are a small part of the actual feature. Okay, so Deepika has asked, what is STLC for Agile? Should it be different from STLC from other methodology in terms of life cycle? So we all know the STLC, the software testing life cycle. In the normal flow which we work on. However, here STLC, yes, it differs a bit, I would say. Why? Because here we are not concentrating on a particular uh, on the documentation of a particular feature. Okay. Here, what we are doing here is we are concentrating on the testing part. Got it? Okay, great. So I will great. So Deepika, what happens in the testing life cycle is a bit different, as we have already discussed in the quadrant. It was some thoda sa different quadrant as compared to in STLC. The normal STLC, they don't follow that quadrant, right? So great, you understood it. Now we will go ahead with continuous integration. So what happens here? The developer is working on chunks and bits of a particular feature, and say for example that feature is done and they want to deploy it. So they simply commit it in SVN or whatever the repository they are using, and it gets automatically tested, the unit testing part, the component testing part, and then it comes into the isn't documentation followed in CMI companies for projects following agile methodology. Yes, that Jyoti, yes, documentation is done into CMMI level companies, but if they are following agile, they will have to compromise in some parts, right? So if the documentation, the detailed documentation of test cases, test scenarios, those will not be the part of agile, because they are ready to accept agile as their organization's methodology, right? So they know how they will have to go ahead. Otherwise, if they are stuck into documentation, there is no use of following agile, right? Then again, they are doing the same thing. And what happens if, actually this is a good question, because I have seen in one of the organizations, I have seen that the people are saying that okay, we are agile, but they are stuck so much into documentation that everything they are doing is ad hoc. That is not agile. They are terming it as agile, but they are not agile. They are simply doing the work on an ad hoc basis, which we don't want. We don't want proper agile to be incorporated. So yes, the companies will have to compromise a bit with the documentation, And that documentation also where the development team and testing team comes into play, right? Because the product manager is obviously mentioning each and everything in the user stories. So obviously the requirements are all documented properly, right? So from customer's point of view, if the customer is looking into my document, the customer will get the requirement document. Okay. If they want if they want what we have tested again, that can be given to them in the checklist format. So even that is that is acceptable. Okay. I hope this answers your query, Jyoti. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, one more. Oh, no. So now we'll go ahead again with continuous integration. So I hope everyone understood the definition of continuous integration. It is that the development team is continuously integrating its features with the features already there on the server. Okay. So what it really means that a regular feature, that is every commit, as I told you in the SCN or some repository where they are committing. What is happening first is the feature is getting integrated with the last feature. Okay, build is done, automated testing is done, the version is created, automated testing is done. That is the unit testing and component testing. The version is archived and then deployed on the developers and testers machine so that they can interact with it. Okay. Importance of continuous testing. Since it is agile methodology is on short iterations, it provides the continuous integration provides the builds in a faster way. Okay, and since we are continuously integrating, the defects are either less or no defects, right? And this reduces their debug time and they concentrate on the user. And also here the testing team is getting the builds on a regular basis, so they are continuously testing. Okay. Also, it increases the visibility of the code. Okay, and and obviously the feature, because of which the communication between the customer development team and the business analyst is very smooth and good. So we have got many integration tools in the market. One of them is Jenkins, which is widely used. The most used is the Jenkins. So for Jenkins, we will simply get a Word file and then we can install it. So we will check it in the later screens. Other ones are BuildBot, which is developed in Python, Travis, which is a SaaS version, and then Strider, which is developed in JavaScript, and it uses MongoDB as a backend store. So yes, we will look into Jenkins. So Jenkins is a free source which is available for continuous integration. So what happens when the developer commits it in the SPM, Jenkins gets it from there. In the Jenkins, we have already done the settings for automation test runs. It will automatically run the test and then it will deploy. This can be integrated with the testing tools and deployment technology. So if we are using Selenium, we can integrate Selenium with Jenkins. Okay. This is the workflow. Developer commits their code in the central repository. It may be SPN or something. Jenkins picks up the change source code, triggers the build. Okay, it starts creating the build and it runs the tests which are applicable for that. And the build gets updated on the Jenkins dashboard. It has a dashboard and automatic notifications are sent to the developers. If we have made the if we have already mentioned the email IDs and all, the notifications are sent to the developers that okay, it has passed or failed. So this is the screen Jenkins website wherein you can click on the LTS release, long-term support release. You will get the Word file, and in there you will get an .msi. Yes. So here you will get a .msi thing for after downloading. You will click for setup. You will click on that, and it will set up Jenkins. And then when you normally it automatically opens this browser, but if you are not getting it, you can simply write http localhost 8080 Jenkins, and you will get this screen if it is properly installed on your system. Okay, this is manage Jenkins screen. Here we have configured system and system information, wherein we can get the environment information. This is normally used for troubleshooting. Then load statistics, script console. Okay. One more question. Kanika. One second. Yeah, this one. So Kanika, do you have any question on this? Because we need to wrap up, and so shall we go ahead, Kanika, or do you have any queries? Bill gets updated. So the step number 3, bill update gets updated on the Jenkins dashboard and it's configured. Automatic notifications are also sent to the developer. So what happens? As soon as Jenkins gets the source code, it triggers the build. So the build starts, the build creation starts, and at the same time, the automated tests which are integrated with Jenkins starts. It runs. So, say for example, it is failed. So dashboard will say yes, it is failed, and it will have an icon which says it fails, and the console output will give you the reason for failure. And if it is not, and if it is passed, I mean everything runs smoothly, it will create a build, a proper build, and either it fails or passes, an automatic notification will be sent to the developers to let them know that okay, the build has passed or failed. Because if it is failed, they will have to again work on it. Again, they will have to go through the whole workflow. They will have to commit their code and all. Okay. So there are some configurations which needs to be done in Jenkins to get the notifications, to get the test run. Okay. Great. So let's move ahead. So this is if you click on Manage Jenkins, you will get this screen wherein you have the options, different options. Okay. So configure systems, reload configuration, system log, Jenkins log file is shown in the real time. So normally this is used for troubleshooting purpose. Okay, load statistics. So number of concurrent builds which are running on Jenkins, it will show you that. Even the data can be shown in the graphical manner. So gives good idea on the infrastructure perspective, and also it will let you know that okay, if the user can predict that how long will the build take, or the build have to wait before execution. So load statistics gives me this idea. Script console, yes, it runs the Groovy scripts. So this is a different thing. You don't go into Groovy scripts, but yes, it is again useful for troubleshooting purpose. Prepare for shutdown, manage load. So Manage nodes is to configure how many builds we want and setting up the build. Prepare for shutdown. So normally continuously the build is getting created on Jenkins. So what happens if I want to shut down Jenkins? The already running build may get interrupted. So what we do is we click on prepare for shutdown. So what happens? The ones which are already running will run, but it will not take the new build for running. Okay. So shutting down becomes clean, and any issues in the new build which is in progress will be taken care of. Okay. So this is the screen wherein my build is created without any issues. So build one, it is created on the date, the time that is written. Okay. And this is the way it is shown if everyone runs smoothly. Okay. This is the console output. So the build which is created here, its output is here. So what has been run, what has been the results. So here they have used Java, Hello World Java project. So it is giving me the information. And in the last line, you will see finish success. Here it is finished success. So it is successfully finished. Okay. Uh, so now, why Jenkins? So basically it is very configurable. We can configure. It can be integrated with Ant, Gradle and other build options. Um, so for testing, if we are using Selenium and we have integrated it with, we are using Ant with Selenium and we want continuously deployment. So yes, we can use Jenkins. It's a free tool under MIT license, and yes, it has large support community. So we can get the help if required. Thorough documentation is available. Moreover, it creates a test report as well. So what has been the results? We can see the test reports. We don't have to look for other options for getting the test reports. It easily integrates with version control systems like GitHub or CN, and directly the deployments can be done on test servers and production. After the automation tests are run, it directly deploys it on the required servers. And also it notifies the stakeholders about the build status. So for notifying, we have some settings in Jenkins wherein we can write, okay, which stakeholders should be notified. So this is all about agile testing. So any questions from anyone? So you can ask questions in chat or you can unmute and ask. Yes, this will be taken care by the Tech Canvas team. Okay, Prakriti? Yeah, Kanika. Okay. Any other queries? Welcome, Prakriti. Manpreet, first of all, we are discussing here about agile testing, but yeah, if you have any interest in testing, you can obviously go ahead into testing, but yes, you will have to start with some courses because you should know what testing is all about, because being from mechanical background, it is really difficult for you to go into testing as a directly. So I would suggest go for training. Okay. And we have so many courses. We have courses for automation testing. We have courses for manual testing. Okay, you can get in touch with the Tech Canvas team, and obviously they can. You can ask which would be the good. Kanika, I'm not sure. Maybe again we will. I mean, the Tech Canvas team, will let you know if we are planning to go ahead with any automation sessions in near future. Okay. Great, Manpreet. Good. Thank you, Prakriti. Yes, 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 Ujas. Selenium works with agile testing. Obviously, Selenium is for automation testing, and here in this uh, session, we have seen that automation, how much automation is important. So Selenium can be integrated with Jenkins, and in the Selenium, we can create automated test cases which can be integrated with Jenkins, which can be executed while your build is in progress. Okay, so obviously, yes, Selenium works in agile testing. Jyoti, for security testing, again, I would recommend you to get in touch with the Tech Canvas team, and we can obviously discuss about it. Okay? Yeah, great. Sure, sure. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, so thank you, everyone, for watching this webinar. In future, if we are going ahead with other, we will let you know. Meanwhile, you can contact on the number which is mentioned here. For the courses, if you are interested in some kind of course, you can go ahead and get it. Okay? Bye.